Hello. This may look like a rerun from the previous demo 22, part 22. But actually it's going back to look at some mistakes that I made that I think caused some issues when I was trying to show how to use a string grid. And I did some work off camera, and I discovered some problems. So this is where we were when I started the last video. We were looking at the application that we'd been developing from parts 1 or 2 right up through part 21. And one of the things I found, I had made a change to the way tools work. I think that's where this is, options. Yes. The naming. I had changed naming, and I told it to I had told it to capitalize. Okay, what it was is if I typed, okay, what I used to typically do is go in and put the file name in uppercase. And I told it not to rename. So what it did was it made my unit name uppercase, but then it did not flow through to the main source code of the program itself, the Pascal program. That stayed in lowercase, and that's what caused the problems. So I have since reset everything back to ask. Okay. So ambiguous file action ask, save as auto rename Pascal files lowercase ask, and when a unit is renamed update references ask. Okay. So those changes were made. Now the next step we went in was I said, well, I'm going to abandon further development on MyApplication, and I'm just going to create a new project to demonstrate various objects you can put on a form and how to use them. And what I did in that case was I don't believe I closed this project. Now this project is being, as you can see on the top of the screen here, this is being stored in the YouTube code directory, right? And so if I go to project and I say close it, close the project. Now we have nothing. And now I can say new project. Okay, and I pick application like I did before. Okay, and now we have that default project 1, form 1, and unit 1. Again, let's take a look at unit 1. And if we go down through here and we look at the name, we have form 1, okay. This is unit 1. You'll notice unit 1 here is in lowercase. and it's going to be called unit1.pass. Now let's take a look at the source code for the project. You see here, it's unit1 in lowercase. So we're not going to end up in that situation where the unit is capitalized in the file, but in lowercase here. And that caused that issue where it couldn't find unit 1. Okay, so now we're going to save this, okay? And when I save everything, I'm going to let it save in the YouTube code directory to show that what I had done, I had messed it up, and you can actually have two projects in the same directory, okay? So this is going to call this project 1 LPI. I say save. And it's going to call it unit 1 pass. Now, why is that capitalized? That's capitalized. Well, let's save it and see what happens. I thought I fixed that. It says it looks like a Pascal file. It is recommended to use lowercase names to avoid various problems with some file systems and different compilers. Rename it to lowercase. Yes. So if I hover over this tab, you'll see that if you in that little box it pops up, it's now labeled, it's now named lowercase unit 1 pass. Okay. Maybe I should go back and just force it lowercase. So whenever you create a unit for some reason, it immediately puts it in the project in lowercase anyway. Whether you've told it otherwise or not, it always puts it in here in lowercase. So let's go back to Tools, Options, Names, Ambiguous File Action, Auto Rename to File to lowercase. Auto rename file to lowercase. When a file is renamed, update the references. Always. Okay, let's apply that. Okay, I think that's going to fix things from now on. Okay, so now we're back to where we were. Let's take a look at our form. And what we had done was we had gone into additional objects here and we had picked a string grid. Where's that? I think that's it right here. We picked a string grid and we put it on the form. We stretched it out. I'm not going to go through increasing the number of columns or rows. I'm going to leave them exactly the way they are. Now, the other thing that I had done was I went in, I double-clicked this. Oh, come on. Here. I double-clicked it, and I used this StringGrid editor to label the rows and the columns. Now, and if you remember, I was trying to figure out how to center the column labels in the columns. And I couldn't find any way of doing it. Okay, so instead of doing this, Okay, what I'm going to do, we're going over here to the Object Inspector, and I picked columns, right? And I right-click on it, and I say Add an Item. Okay. Now you'll see that there's a title thrown on the top of the column, and now there's only there's two columns. One is fixed, and the other one is not fixed. Okay. Now, having added that, if I click on that column, it's the 0th column, right? And I go down here, I can say alignment. If I click on alignment, do you see what the legend says down below? This indicates the alignment for values displayed in the column, left or right, aligned or centered. So that's when you enter a value in this column. Is it going to be left, right, aligned, or centered? So that's what this selection does. And currently, it's left justified. So as you type, the letters get added from left to right as you type. Now, here it says, if you look down through these properties, you'll see it says title. And if I click on this, that expands down, and now I have alignment. And currently it says left justified and what the caption is. So when we were creating the other one, we used that other editor. Now we're not using that editor. We're using the functionality in the Object Inspector instead. So let me change alignment of the title, right? And I can go in here and click Center. And you'll notice over here on the screen, title is now centered. If I pick Right Justify, title's right justified. You see how that works? Now, the caption is the word title. But what if I want to call that something else? What if I want to call that first name? I could do that, right? So I would just pick this and I would say first name. Okay. Now I can't resize here, but I believe I can resize in here. Yes, the width is 64, right? So I can change that. I can make that 164. Let's see what that does. There we go. I think that's probably too big. Let's make that just 100. Okay. Now I can go back up here, right, and select columns again and say add item. And over here, it's added that column. And now it's calling that first name. Is there a name property? I don't see a name property. Okay. Okay. So we're going to say it's centered. Well, first of all, we've got left justify for the first name. The text is left justified. Okay. Now for the title, I guess we'll leave it left justified, and we will call this, the title will change. Okay, we'll center the title, like we did the other one, and then we will call this last name. Okay, and we'll make it the same. We'll make it the same width as we did the other one. You see, do you get the idea of how this is working? Come on. Oh. I guess I'm going to have to do that down here. 60. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to do that down here. We'll make that 460. There we go. Anyway, that's how you would add the columns. I'm going to add one more. And I'm going to call this birth date. I guess I could call that birth date, right? Last name, yeah, first name, last name, birth date. We'll call this birth date. We're going to center it. And we're going to call it birth date. Like that. And we can make that 80. Okay. Now I haven't found a functionality to label these rows. And typically that one would probably be left blank anyway. And we can have these auto-numbered. I believe. So let's see here. Columns. And I want, let's see, the fixed column. Column count is 4. Fixed columns is 1. Fixed rows is 1. See what we got for options here. Auto add rows. Okay. Yeah, these options are they indicate how the editor is going to kind of work and the functionality of the various columns and things. Now I just picked row numbering. That put these numbers in automatically for me. Okay, now I want it to allow editing. So you remember I was having a problem with it. You had to hit enter in order to progress from one cell to the next. And then when you got to the end, hitting enter did not flow to the next row and the first cell. Well, it turns out that functionality is in here. Well, first of all, we need to get the editor to work. Now, if I click on this, it says down here, always shows the cell editor. If not set, the user has to enter edit mode by data characters for the cell or by pressing F2 key. Well, we'll make that true. So it's going to go into edit mode. And if I say go editing, it says allows editing in the grid cells. So I will say true. Now, regarding the tab, there's a thing here called Go Tabs, and it says controls tab key behavior in the grid. When enabled, the tab key changes the active cell within the grid. When omitted, the tab key changes to the next active control. So in other words, if I had another control on this form, let's say I have a button. Excuse me. Get to a button here. Okay, I put a button on the form. So what will happen is if I hit the tab key when I'm in this string grid, it will move focus. It will leave the string grid and it will place focus on the button. So that's what that does. So what I want to do is I want to enable the Go Tab thing. True. Now when I hit tab, it will progress like that. Now there's another functionality in here which allows the grid to grow in the number of rows it has if you exceed the default row count. So let's take a look and see if I can find it. So there's row select. Vertical line, truncate cell hints, smooth scroll, row sizing. That changes row height. Row moving. Range select. What does that do? That allows you to select a range. Here we go. Auto add rows. Auto add rows. Automatically add new rows. Does not add rows if the last cell is empty. We'll make that true. Okay. Now, let's let's save this. All right. All right. It's saved because the little asterisk that we showed that we made changes is now gone. Let's run this. Now we're running this in the same directory that we developed MyApplication in. So the problem I had before was it was compiling and executing MyApplication and not this new project. So, and like before, there's this default debugger. I'm going to say OK for it. And here's our application running. it lets me pick a lets me pick a column in a row, and now I'm going to type in Sally, tab. See? Tab now moves over where it should. And we have Monroe, tab, and we can put a birth date in. We say 01/01/1960. There we go. Now, if I hit tab, look at this. It wrapped, the cursor is now in this column. We'll put in John, tab, Jones, tab, and 2/2/1980. You do it again. And we'll just say Philip, sign, 3/3/1990, tab. And now we'll put in Robert Klein, and he's 04/04/1972, tab. Well, look at that. Scroll bar activated, and we've now added a fifth item in the list. Henry. What do we call this guy? Connor. 05/05/1985. I better make that right. 1985. Okay. If I hit enter, doesn't do anything, right? If I hit tab, it just added another row for me. So you see how neat this is? I mean, this is really neat stuff. And you can highlight things. You can hit Control-C, move to another cell, and hit Control-V and copy things in. It works fine. So hitting tab will not go to this button because I have done that Go Tabs feature for this StringGrid. Now that should take us all the way up to where I left off in my last part 22 video. This corrects all those situations that we were running into. You can create a second project in a directory that is also got another project in it. I wouldn't do it because I have a tendency to name things functionally the way they are. So I could accidentally, in a second project running in that directory, create a unit accidentally, stepping on a possible other unit. It could cause problems and confusion. So I would say, as a general rule, when you're doing a project, create a directory specifically for that project, and then just keep everything for that project there. And if you're going to work on another project, create a whole different directory and put all your files there, save them there. That's probably just a good rule of thumb. But the part that I was saying was a big bug or a problem isn't if you do it right. So I think I made some kind of a mistake somewhere along the line. I don't know what. But by doing what I've done, by making the units stored in lowercase and then by completely closing a project and creating a new one, even though it's in the same directory, it works fine now. If I go back to working on my application, it should work fine. So anyway, I thought I would at least make those corrections, and you can see now how the StringGrid is much better. You would still have to add, let's, for example, you would want to do date checking to make sure these were valid dates. So that's gonna take some code. And you're going to have to go into the properties of the StringGrid to handle that. There's no way around it. Okay? So at any rate, that's it for this little short part 23 video. And the next time, maybe we'll go, like I had said before, we'll probably go into working with events for a StringGrid. Maybe what we'll do is we'll add birth date validation or something. That might be a good thing. And we could also automatically fix it so that letters entered into the first name and last name fields are automatically capitalized or something along that line. Okay. Well, thanks guys for watching. If you like the content, give me a like. And if you want to see more of it, subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.